Thank you for watching QTV with the news. My name is Diana Sumbwe. We take a look at stories making headlines. The country external debt stock increased to 9.51 billion United States dollars at the end of the second quarter of 2018. The Zambia police says it recorded 24 gender-based violence-related murders in the third quarter of 2018. And Konkola Copper Mines KCM has begun paying suppliers of goods and services. And now the news in detail. Minister of Finance Margaret Mwanakatwe has revealed that government has paid 545.2 million United States dollars toward debt service for 3 quarters of 2018. And Mrs. Mwanakatwe says the country's external debt stock as at close of the third quarter was 9.51 billion United States dollars from 9.37 billion United States dollars at the end of the second quarter of 2018. Briefing the media on the 2018 third quarter economic performance, Mrs. Mwanakatwe says the increase was on account of payment of some new disbursements. She says the stock of domestic debt, mainly government securities, as at the end of the third quarter of 2018 amounted to 54.6 billion kwacha from 51.9 billion kwacha at the end of the second quarter. Mrs. Mwanakatwe states that a total of 647.8 billion kwacha was paid towards domestic debt service. The minister says government has acknowledged the rising vulnerabilities from its debt profile and is committed to implementation of austerity measures to ensure movement back to moderate debt risk distress. Mrs. Mwanakatwe further states that Zambia's total guaranteed debt stands at 1.2 billion United States dollars as at the end of September 2018. Meanwhile, Mrs. Mwanakatwe has disclosed that government has so far put 10 million United States dollars in the sinking fund for repaying the Eurobonds.
Debt service for the 3 quarters of 2018 amounted to 545 million US dollars. The stock of domestic debt, mainly government securities, as at the end of the third quarter 2018 amounted to 54.6 billion from 51.9 billion at the end of the second quarter 2018. A total of 647.8 billion was paid towards domestic debt service. Total guaranteed debt was at $1.2 billion as at the end of September 2018. Government acknowledges the rising vulnerabilities from its debt profile and is committed to implementation of austerity measures to ensure movement back to moderate debt risk distress. Verified domestic debt arrears as at the end of second quarter stood at 14.7 billion compared to 14 billion recorded at the end of quarter 1 of 2018.
And Mrs. Mwanakatwe has disclosed that government collected a total of 38.7 billion kwacha in revenue and grants over the period of January to September 2018 and was 1.1% higher than the target of 38.3 billion kwacha. The minister says government expects the microeconomic fundamentals to remain stable in the last quarter of 2018 despite pressure from the recent depreciation of the kwacha and inflation.
Government remains committed to addressing emerging threats to the advancement of its development agenda, including rising debt and vulnerabilities in public financial management. Happenings such as those at the Ministry of Education, Community Development and Lusaka Provincial Administration will be dealt with decisively through the instant dismissals and prosecutions as provided for under the Public Financial Management Act. Further, any misappropriated funds will be recovered from the perpetrators. Other expected developments in the fourth quarter. I wish to inform you that in this month, November 2018, Zambia will be hosting the World Bank International Development Association, IDA 18, high-level mid-term review. I also wish to update you that we are currently hosting an IMF staff visit. The staff are here to exchange information on economic data that will allow the development of a macroeconomic framework that will be used under the upcoming Article 4 consultation. The framework will also provide a basis for determination of any policy adjustments required going forward. Further, in the fourth quarter, We are expected to have bilateral negotiations with Germany to discuss further cooperation. Government is expected to take Public Procurement Act and the Planning and Budgeting Bill to Parliament during the next sitting in order to strengthen public financial management. Let me conclude by thanking you for coming. As Minister of Finance, I find it a very important dialogue session that we hold these continuously.
Speaking at the same briefing, Hanai Junichi, who was representing cooperating partners, pledged support to government's efforts towards developing the economy.
First of all, I would like to congratulate macroeconomic stability and good performance of Zambia with strong leadership with Honorable Minister Madam Margaret Nakatue and His Excellency Mr. President Edgar Changalungu. We CPZ members are so happy to know that such a good performance of the economy in this quarter, and we appreciate as well further effort to realize development of economy, like introduction of sales tax and any other measures, innovative measures by the Ministry of Finance. First of all,
the Zambia police has disclosed that it recorded 24 gender-based violence-related murders in the third quarter of 2018. This is out of the 6,114 gender-based violence cases recorded countrywide during the third quarter of 2018, compared to 5,096 recorded during the same period in 2017, indicating an increase of 1,018 cases, which translate to 16.7%. In a statement on the 2018 third quarter gender-based violence statistics, Zambia Police Service Public Relations Officer Esther Katongo says of the total reported cases of gender-based violence-related murders, 11 victims were female adults, 5 male victims, 5 girls, while 3 were boys. Ms. Katongo notes that the increase in the gender-based violence cases may be attributed to the many interventions being put in place by the Police Victim Support Unit and other stakeholders in combating the vice. Ms. Katongo says a total of 664 cases of child defilement were recorded, representing 10.9% of the total reported cases, out of which 3 were against boys, while 661 were against girls. She says Lusaka Province recorded the highest number of child defilement cases, with 320 translating to 48.2% of the child defilement cases reported countrywide. Southern Province recorded 73 cases, translating to 11%, followed by Central Province with 63 cases, or 9.5%. Eastern Province had 60 cases, representing 9%, and Copperbelt Province recorded 49 cases, translating to 7.4%. Ms. Katongo adds that 124 rape cases, representing 2%, were reported, while 23 cases were attempted rape. She says 37 cases of indecent assault, translating to 0.6% of total reported gender-based violence cases, were recorded, out of which 2 were against male adults, 26 against female adults, and 9 against girls. Ms. Katongo also reveals that 12 cases of incest involving 6 female adults and 6 girls were reported countrywide. Konkola Copper Mines KCM has started paying the more than 80 million United States dollars owed to 400 local and international contractors and suppliers of goods and services. Mines and Minerals Development Minister Richard Musukwa has told Parliament during the question for oral and answer session that about 256 local suppliers have so far been paid a total amount of about 7.6 million United States dollars. Mr. Musukwa has attributed the failure by KCM to pay its suppliers and contractors to low production at the company, which he says negatively affected the operations of the mining company. He says apart from failing to pay its suppliers, KCM has also been failing to pay workers' salaries, and that in some cases workers are owed a few months' salaries in arrears. Meanwhile, Mr. Musukwa says despite the challenges the company may be experiencing, its future remains promising. Mr. Muswa says it is for this reason that government is working with KCM to ensure that it increases production and operates normally.
Mr. Speaker, at B, the total amount brought to 400 suppliers by KCM as of September 2018 stood at $80 million. At C, Mr. Speaker, KCM has not been able to pay suppliers on time due to lower than expected production, which seriously impacted their cash flow and in the process negated their plan in terms of liquidating the indebtedness to the suppliers and contractors. At D, Mr. Speaker, although the current performance of KCM is worrisome, the future is promising. The House, Mr. Speaker, may wish to know that government is working with KCM to ensure that production is increased in order to improve its cash flow. KCM, Mr. Speaker, has submitted their development business plan for 2019, in which they have submitted an increase in production from the current projected 90,000 metric tons in 2018 to 125,300 metric tons in 2019.
Political analyst Dr. Alex Ngoma has observed that the delay in holding the impending national dialogue has contributed to political polarization in the country. Dr. Ngoma tells QTV News that the political conflict the country has continued to witness could only be resolved through dialogue. He states that the tension between the ruling party and the opposition parties is visible for one to see. While the Zambia Center for Interparty Dialogue, ZCID, has appointed Chiefs Ngabwe, Mazimawe, Dr. Chifumu Banda and Dr. Akashambatwa Lewanika as eminent people to lead the national dialogue process. The Opposition United Party for National Development, UPND, the National Democratic Congress, NDC, among others, have indicated that they will not be part of the dialogue led by the ZCID.
We are still in a very polarized situation, the kind of polarization that began with the 2016 elections. And that is why, even when you look at what is happening in Zambia today, you will see that the government of the day and its supporters are saying one thing, while those in the opposition are actually saying the opposite. So there is still a lot of political polarization in the country. There is still a lot of political conflict in the country, precisely because of the 2016 elections and the failure by the country really to resolve these conflicts amicably. We've heard of the dialogue process, which appears to have stalled now. But if the dialogue process had actually been given a chance, I am of the view that maybe the contentious issues would have actually been resolved through that process. So polarization continues as at now, simply because the so-called dialogue has actually not taken place yet.
Minister of Health Chitalo Chilufya has directed the Health Professions Council of Zambia, HPCZ, to ensure there is no compromise in the delivery of health services to the general public. Speaking at the groundbreaking ceremony for the construction of the HPCZ three-story office block in Lusaka's Olympia residential area, Dr. Chilufya says HPCZ should not allow any health facility to operate without meeting the minimum standards. He has also emphasized that no health professional should be allowed to practice if they do not meet any level of accreditation, adding that it is of the sovereign responsibility of HPCZ to ensure it protects the well-being of the general public. Meanwhile, Dr. Chilufya has disclosed that the Levi Mwanawasa Medical University will open before the end of 2018. Dr. Chilufya says government is in a rush to start training specialized doctors, hence opening the Levi Mwanawasa Medical University and the Zambia College of Medicine and Surgery.
That's the reason we've opened up the Levi Mwanawasa Medical University. That's the reason we've established the Zambia College of Medicine and Surgery to train specialist doctors. We said we will train 500 new specialists. We already have more than 300 in training. We said we will recruit 30,000 health workers. We've already recruited over 16,000. The Levi Mwanawasa Medical University is beginning operations, the first intake is beginning before the end of the year, and we'll have expanded scope, of faculty next year. We're already in the process of recruiting all the required human resource. HPCZ is critical to that process in terms of accrediting the programs, for learning. So make sure that as you do all this, anybody involved in medical health, in health worker training, sticks to rules. Thank you very much for this.
And HPCZ chairperson Professor Sekelani Banda has described the yet-to-be-constructed HPCZ offices as a milestone in meeting the mandate of the council, which is to protect the welfare of the general public. Professor Banda says the HPCZ has had no permanent offices since inception, thereby affecting its effective operations.
To grace this occasion at the groundbreaking ceremony for the Health Professions Council of Zambia. This is a very important milestone because for over 50 years the Health Professions Council has not had a permanent office to operate from. We are now going to have a purpose-built building that is going to position the Health Professions Council of Zambia in ensuring it can meet its mandate in protecting the public. It protects the public by registering and ensuring that the health professionals are properly trained and that their professional conduct is up to speed and that there is a public awareness about the role of the HPCZ. So we are most grateful that the Minister was able to grace this occasion, and we appreciate the continued support that we receive from the government and the Minister in particular. Minister, thank you very much for gracing us.
Opposition People's Alliance for Change President Adford Banda has expressed concern over how public resources are being misappropriated in the name of fostering development. Mr. Banda says this is being done by inflating the cost of projects, some of the projects and procurement. He says the construction of the Michael Chilufya Sata Toll Plaza at over $4 million United States dollars is an affirmation that the Patriotic Front government is too extravagant and irresponsible. Mr. Banda adds that the construction of some public infrastructure at very high cost further shows that the Patriotic Front is not a pro-poor government as it claims in its manifestos.
As PAC, we have seen that and noted with with worry that a number of things that the PF has been constructing and buying, they've been buying them at a very high cost. Look at the fire tenders, which were supposed to have costed about $250,000 US dollars, they ended up costing $1 million. Just this Lusaka-Ndola dual carriageway, which in other countries would cost about $500 million, to them it was going at $1.3 billion. We have a lot of other examples like the ambulances, which were supposed to have costed about $75,000. They were going at about $170,000. So to us, we are not shocked that the levels of responsibility in the PF government have continued. And the announcement that the Michael Chilufya Sata toll gate, which is along Ndola Kitwe, costed $4.8 million, is just an affirmation of the irresponsibility of the PF government. It's showing that the PF government have continued to demonstrate to the Zambian people that they don't care about prudently managing the resources of this country.
The Lusaka Province Minister Bowman Lusambo has become the latest minister who has offered to resign if UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema is able to substantiate his claims that ZNBC and Zafiko have been sold to the Chinese. He joins Minister of Information and Broadcasting Services Dora Silia, who has also offered to resign. Speaking at a media briefing, Mr. Lusambo has challenged Mr. Hichilema to substantiate his claims that government has sold the two national assets to the Chinese. He says it will no longer be worthy for him to continue serving in a government which does not care about the plight of the masses. And Mr. Lusambo claims people have lost confidence in the opposition political parties because they have concentrated on spreading lies and rumors about government.
So as government, there's nothing that we want. We want the people of Zambia to know that this person, I think it doesn't mean well to this nation. We have seen opposition political party leaders It doesn't mean that if you're an opposition political party leader, you are destined to govern the country. We have seen opposition political party leaders who have been there for checks and balances. We have seen that. And I can assure you that the late Chama Chakomboka, may his soul rest in peace, he was more called an opposition leader than Hakainde Hichilema, because Chama Chakomboka was giving us hope. He was talking about creating jobs for the youth. He was talking about discovering oil in Zambia. He was talking about knowing where gold, diamond is in our country. He wasn't giving this type of excitement to the people. But this guy, he has failed to compete with His Excellency Edgar Chagwa Lungu. Now he wants to start lying to the people. I can assure you that he's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. If he's very intelligent, if he's very clever, Hakainde Hichilema, this is the time for him to leave the political scene, because you won't get out of it. And for us, we have been quiet. We didn't want to do politics, but Hakainde Hichilema, I can assure him that I think we'll face him head on.
Some stakeholders have urged the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, to take keen interest in the recent claims by the opposition United Party for National Development, UPND, that the ruling Patriotic Front is engaging in electoral malpractice ahead of the Mangango parliamentary by-election slated for November 20th, 2018. Zambia Council for Social Development Acting Executive Director Pasco Bwalia says the ECZ must not take the report by the UPND lightly. Mr. Bwalia says reports that the Patriotic Front is working on some roads in Mangango ahead of the by-election is tantamount to vote buying. He has since urged the ECZ to investigate the matter thoroughly, saying failure to do so has the potential to subject the result of the election to nullification.
What we believe is, according to the Electoral Code of Conduct, there is supposed to be a free and fair campaigning, in which case there shouldn't be incidences of saying we will only bring development if you vote for our candidate because we are the ruling party. That in itself isn't good enough. It's something that we would like to ask everyone who is involved to have a fair playing field within the electoral system. So we wish to ask the Electoral Commission of Zambia to take action against any such incidences if they are happening, because that brings the elections into disrepute. There will be problems if such things are happening within the electoral process. So we wish to ask the Electoral Commission of Zambia to be more firm in their actions against perpetrators of such actions within the electoral process.
And the Foundation for Democratic Process says although they have not received reports of electoral malpractice in Mangango by-election, it is important that those accusing the ruling party substantiate their claims. FODEP Executive Director Mwenge Chimfwembe says there is need for all political parties to be sincere in the manner they conduct their campaigns, avoiding engaging in any electoral malpractice.
We hope that all the players will not in any way stretch the rules, because by doing so you simply usurp the will of the people. And therefore, we are hopeful that the race will be clean, will be issue-based, and there will be also sincerity in the electoral promises. Because sometimes we have tended to see a situation where there are promises made that are actually outside the boundary of what a member of parliament can do. So it's important to stick to what a member of parliament can do. To the Mangango residents, it's very important equally that as you choose your leader, engage with them. Ask them questions. Let these people be people whom you can trace, whose commitment to community work is tested and is traceable. They ought to be people whom you know that once you elect them, they will not abandon the community to come to Lusaka forever. We hope
Save the Children Zambia has called for increased investment in the areas of children's health, education and protection. Organization Country Director Duncan Harvey says inasmuch as President Edgar Lungu's commitment towards promoting children's participation in national development is commendable, there is need for concrete results to come out of this commitment. Mr. Harvey says his organization is concerned with the recent results of the 2018 African Report on Child Well-being of the Child Policy Forum released earlier this month, which ranked Zambia 48th out of 52 countries as the least child-friendly country. He has called on government to provide adequate financial resources to enable children enjoy their rights in line with the international and African child rights framework that Zambia has committed itself to. Mr. Harvey has since expressed hope that government will take time to review the report, which has ranked Zambia as the 48th least child-friendly country.
The findings of the recent Child Wellbeing Survey for Africa 2018, which ranks Zambia at 48th out of 52 countries in Africa. So the rating is based on a composite index of investments that the government is making in things like children's health, children's education, social protection, but also how responsive is the legal environment. Are there laws in place to protect children? Things like the age of criminal responsibility for children, the legal age of marriage. All of these things were taken into consideration by the report, and Save the Children is expressing a great deal of concern about the fact that Zambia is now ranked 48th out of 52 countries. It's actually fallen 12 places since the last review was conducted in 2013. So we're not making the kind of progress that we're seeing other countries in the region make, and it's really a wake-up call, I think, for the country, and we're really calling on the government to take notice of the results and to realize the importance of putting in place legislation. Things like the Child Code Bill, which has been proposed by the government, is yet to be finalized and developed into an act. I think that will do a great deal to improve the policy environment for children and to really make sure that things like the age of criminal responsibility and the age of marriage is established and set across all of the government's legislation. But we also want to see greater investment in, as I said, children's health, children's education, social protection. These are areas where, again, the report was highlighting that only 1.1% of the gross domestic product of Zambia is being invested in education. The finding
Zambians have been advised to realize that the health care system in the country will only be transformed if they keep reminding themselves that their health is their responsibility. Visiting Africa Medical Research Foundation, AMREF Regional Director Joachim Osu says the best health system in the world, like that of France, is ownership of responsibility of healthcare is by the citizens. Professor Osu, who is based at the AMREF head office in Kenya, says this ownership is what creates better health behavior in terms of disease prevention and expenditure for health. Speaking during a report-sharing meeting on health insurance and finance in Lusaka, Professor Osu says this means that health insurance schemes owned by citizens improve quality of health services. We have more in this report.
It has been approximately 7 months since the National Health Insurance Bill was signed into law. Since then, the nation has been expectantly waiting on the steps government will take to implement this legislation. This is a task the Ministry of Health itself does acknowledge is mammoth and requiring the support of all stakeholders.
And it is for this reason that Ministry of Health is engaging with all stakeholders like yourselves to help this scheme to be successfully implemented. Since the signing of the National Health Insurance Act, a number of key steps have been taken to allow for the operationalization of the scheme, and these being the drafting of the regulations, the drafting of the National Health Insurance Scheme Communication Strategy, the definition and the costing of the National Health Insurance Benefits Package, which is an ongoing process, and the development of the structure of the National Health Insurance Management Authority as prescribed in the Act.
These steps obviously are to the delight of this gathering here. It is a report-sharing meeting on health insurance and finance, which has been organized by the African Medical and Research Foundation, AMREF.
So in Zambia, we've been involved in these discussions around the national health insurance. We've been partnering with other CSOs to have discussions on how we can partner with the government ensuring that the national health insurance is implemented.
For local NGOs such as the Center for Reproductive Health and Education, their interest is to see to it that the National Health Insurance Scheme proves to be a success.
So we are here for you, and we want to inform you that the CSOs in the room are actually looking forward to working with you, and that's why we've called you to disseminate this report that we did in December and also see how best we can work with us.
And visiting AMREF Regional Director Joachim Osa, who is based in Kenya, his message is to the Zambian people. He believes that healthcare in any given country can only be transformed if citizens keep reminding themselves that their health is their responsibility.
Now the first thing we need to do, if we are going to transform health in Africa and in Zambia, is to remind ourselves that your health is your responsibility. And when you look at the best health systems in the world, like France or others, ownership of responsibility for health is very high among its citizens. That I am responsible for my health. That ownership creates better health behavior in terms of disease prevention. It also creates better health behavior in terms of expenditure for health. People will want to know the money allocated to me for health, how is it being used?
The National Health Insurance Scheme is meant to ensure that all Zambians have equitable access to quality health care. This is irrespective of their status in society. Lazarus Tichula, QTV News. It has been
The Zambia Development Agency says it will soon operationalize the Export, Trade, Agriculture and Industrial Development Fund that will assist Zambian business enterprises transition into premier exporters. ZDA Director for Enterprise Development, Mukula Makasa, says the agency's mandate is to grow and graduate as many local business enterprises who can participate explicitly in trade, particularly exports. Mr. Makasa says that the agency's focus is therefore on the regional markets such as the Democratic Republic of Congo DRC, Burundi, Rwanda and Angola. He explains that the fund will target start-up businesses that will need speed capital to steer them into the growth trajectory to viable and sustainable enterprises that will contribute to enhancing of economic industrialization and diversification. Mr. Makasa has since pledged the agency's commitment to ensuring that Zambian entrepreneurs grow both locally and internationally. He says the fund will encourage diversification and promote job creation through agricultural practices as envisaged in the 7th National Development Plan.
We build their capacity, through entrepreneurship development, mindset transformation, which helps them to generate business ideas and then to transform those business ideas into business plans. And then we set them on an incubation pathway where we help them to transform those business plans into products through product development. And then we accelerate their growth by linking them to markets and then also linking them to capital so that they can drive their businesses. That's what we are doing for Zambians.
How is this important for the country's economy?
Very, very important, because you see, a country's economy hinges on industrialization and diversification. We're heavily dependent on mining, so we're trying to move the country's dependence on mining away by diversifying our economy, and that's why we're promoting primary agricultural production, and that's why we are promoting infrastructure development. That's why we're also promoting manufacturing, which is value addition to the very natural resources and primary products from agriculture, and also tourism. So that's what we are doing to diversify the economy and to steer industrialization. And that's what will accelerate the country to becoming a middle-income economy by 2030.
Minister of Agriculture Michael Katambo has assured the nation that the failure by government to pay seed suppliers for the supply of seeds in the latest three farming seasons will not affect the supply of the input in the 2018-2019 farming season. Mr. Katambo has told Parliament that his ministry has continued to engage seed suppliers who have since assured government that the seeds will be made available for this season. He says in an effort to liquidate the debt to the seed suppliers, an amount totaling about 120 million kwacha has so far been paid. Mr. Katambo has also disclosed that owing to government's failure to pay the seed suppliers, they complained of having challenges in operations such as transportation and packaging of the commodity, among other challenges. The minister has since assured seed suppliers that government will soon finish paying them what they are owed.
Our response, Mr. Speaker, is the seed companies that supplied seed under the Farmer Input Support Program, FISI, are owed for the seed supplied for the 2016, 2017, and the 2017-2018 seasons due to budgetary constraints the ministry faced in the implementation of the program. The seed companies are owed 56,355,627.64 in B. The ministry is constantly engaging the seed companies, and seed companies have presented their operational challenges to government. Therefore, government is aware of the challenges that they are facing. In C, we are constantly engaging the Ministry of Finance in the release of funds to liquidate the debt owed to seed companies.
Planning International Zambia Country Director Samuel Musyoki has, with concern, that there are still levels of discrimination against girls that have been readmitted in school under the re-entry policy. Mr. Musyoki has therefore noted the need to engage the communities to make them understand the importance of the re-entry policy in promoting girl childhood education. He has told QTV News in an interview that there is a lot that needs to be done to curb discrimination against girls who are readmitted in schools. Meanwhile, Mr. Musyoki has encouraged girls who fall pregnant not to relent in getting back to school, saying education is the best equalizer.
I think there is acceptance, but actually there are still challenges. In some schools, they are stigmatizing girls who have either been pregnant and they are trying to come back to school. Even the fellow children as well the communities, there's still a lot of stigma for girls who have either gotten married or they've gone out, they are children and they want to come back to school. And I think there's a lot still that needs to be done, engaging with the communities, trying to show them if this has happened, it's still fine. You have to accept, these girls and allow them to come back to school. But again, there are others who do not even come to the point of wanting to go back to school after they had had their children, or they have had, after a girl has had a child, maybe all they feel like is, let me stay at home and take care of my baby. And that's where we need to be thinking of alternatives. There are those who may want to go to vocational training institutions and not necessarily back to the same schools where they were, or they want to go to schools far from home. But these are challenges as well, because who is left with the child when they go far from home? So yes, the school re-entry policy is there. It provides a good window, an opening where actually we can engage and see the ways of getting these girls back to school. But as I've said, then alternatives also for other kind of training which can help them to have an opportunity to have a second chance to be employed by themselves, or having capital where they can do businesses or engage in small income generating activities to support their children and themselves. Yeah.
The National Biosafety Authority says there is still some level of misconception regarding genetically modified organisms, GMOs. Authority Communications Officer Sandra Mlowa says following numerous sensitization campaigns they have been conducting, it has come to their attention that due to lack of knowledge on GMOs, some people have been spreading false information that some chicken on the market are genetically modified organisms. Ms. Mlowa says the authority is concerned because even the learned are ignorant with regards to GMOs, emphasizing the need for people to be educated on what GMOs are. Ms. Mlowa has stressed that at the moment the country does not have any consignment of GMO products.
And this is not just among the ordinary people. I think even among the learned people, we've noticed that there are a lot of people that have misinformation. Some people just conclude. We've had a number of radio programs just recently, and what has come out so strongly is the complaints or the concern that some of the chickens that are being reared contain genetically modified organisms or are genetically modified. But so far, we have not had any chicken that is genetically modified organism. We have heard of where people see something that just grows out of proportion and they conclude that is GMO. Maybe we may take this opportunity also just to inform the nation, as we have done in the past, that at the moment we do not have any genetically modified crops or animals in the country. So we notice that there's a lot actually that has to be done, and maybe our age is that people should familiarize themselves with the NBA and get to know more about our mandate, and also just to clear the air that
To end the news, we take a look at stories making headlines. The country external debt stock increased to 9.51 billion United States dollars at the end of the second quarter of 2018. The Zambia police says it recorded 24 gender-based violence-related murders in the third quarter of 2018. And Konkola Copper Mines KCM has begun paying suppliers of goods and services. On that note, we come to the end of the news. From me, Dana Sumbwe. Thank you for watching.